This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Goalie Ashwa Gummies. You can find them at goalie.com. Use promo code the Show Up Dad Foundation to get 10% off your order. Zenderance Active Wellness and Sports Nutrition. Their products are designed to maximize your health. At Zenderance, they strive to support and have a positive impact on the wellness of every hardworking dad. Use my code the Show Up Dad and get 10% off your next purchase. For more info, go to www.zenderance.com. Tall Man Equipment. Standing taller than the rest of the competition in lineman tools since 1952. Give them a follow at www.tallmanequipment.com. And last but not least, Adam Lane Smith. He is an attachment specialist who helps people to heal, connect, and build. Use my promo code SHOW, spelled SHOW, for a 50% discount on his attachment bootcamp course. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Show Up Dad podcast. This is a ministry created for hardworking fathers. At the Show Up Dad, we recognize that fathers providing for their children is certainly important, but when men truly understand their unique role and gain the knowledge and skills to be great fathers, they can transform and impact future generations. I want to welcome Jason Rios. He is the owner of Old Traditions Gentlemans Parlor. Jason is a father of two from a previous marriage and has been remarried going on 4 years with his new spouse. Together, they have opened this wonderful shop, and Jason, you've been cutting hair since 2013, right?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks for having me, David. First of all, I appreciate the show. I listen to it myself. Pretty much it's something that I love, I love the fact that I get a chance to now be on the opposite side and, instead of just listening in, now I'm actually, one of the callers in a sense. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just thank you for coming on and sharing what you do to be a show up dad. I want to open up, Jason, with you just letting our audience know what your relationship was, growing up with your father, bro, and like what spawned you off into cutting hair and stuff like that. Can you please share?
Yeah. So, growing up, I was the youngest of five. So, I do want to say it was a challenge because I did kind of just grow up saying I saw it all through the eyes of my brothers and just kind of living it through them and stuff like that. But it was challenging because I think, being the youngest, especially of five, I only have one sister. So it's like my dad was always there. My dad was always involved in the family. He was never absent. But, I sat down one day as an adult and I was just like, you know what, my dad never took me by myself, by the hand or by the shoulder or something and just said, hey, let's just go get an ice cream, just you and I, or never once, like, was it just kind of that one-on-one time? So for me, it's like, I think about that a lot, and I think it kind of affected me in a sense because I always had that resentment towards my dad of like, well, you never really heard me out. You never heard the things that I wanted to do. And then the things that I wanted to do, like skateboarding, that was my passion when I was growing up, skateboarding and punk rock music, when I was a teenager. And it was just kind of like, hey, you're out in the streets all day and, you're not doing your homework. My dad was big into education and stuff like that. My dad was a very educated person. But then that's the thing that kind of created two extremes because my dad went to the university. He became he was an instructor at his university. He became a lawyer, and and my mom had a third grade education. So it was kind of two extremes, So from my dad's point of view, it was always very strategical. Everything was very planned. Everything was very thought out. And from, in a sense, my mom, like growing up, it was just kind of more of like, hey, like do or die, like you're not going to learn if you don't know, like you just have to try things out. And so it was very difficult because I found myself kind of just in the middle of a lot of things. And, that aside, I was born here in Orange County, but my parents were actually just, Mexican residents, and they got their residency out here in like about 94. And it was also just kind of hard because I always felt like I had an identity crisis, because it's just kind of like I was caught in the middle because especially the area where I grew up, which was Santa Ana, it was just kind of very in a sense, just very influenced by the Hispanic culture, and that was great. But for me,
Mhm.
it's like I said, I always wanted to learn more and just learn about the world. And once I realized there was different cultures, like that's just kind of what drew me wanting to go outside of my area, and just
Yeah.
to kind of really learn the world and see what was out there aside from what, just very little that my parents knew. I got to a point where I'm just like, my parents have made it this far, which is cool, but like they've never traveled. They've never really done anything. They've never really seen the world. They've only been to Big Bear. That's about it.
Yeah.
So it was challenging. It was very hard.
No, and it's good to see that you're drawing from both your parents, brother. You have this one educated side coming from your father's side, and then your mom who wanted you to indulge in experiences, right? So
Right.
it's it's
Exactly.
it's good to see that, when they say we're a melting pot of both our parents, right?
Right.
That's what we're seeing in you. You know what I mean? You're taking both good and bad from your parents and and good or whatever, and you're putting them together, and that's what created you, and that's what's creating you to go
Mhm.
out there and experience. Um, my father
Absolutely.
said the same thing. He always used to tell us, don't you ever want to see what's on the other side of that mountain? I remember that's
Right.
what my father used to tell me. And that was that exploratory side that
Yeah.
he
Most
wanted to see.
definitely.
You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I try to share that with my children as well.
Right. One thing though that I'll never forget though about my dad, because like I said, I never spent too much time with him. Once I became an adult, and of
Mhm.
course, once I went through my divorce, I wanted to kind of reconnect with my father, spend more time with him, and just kind of really make sure that I was a great son and also learn things, right? So I can be able to
Yeah.
hone my own skills as a dad. And but when I was young, my dad used to always kind of go to a park, or like I said, we used to always just go to Big Bear, and his whole thing was just kind of like yell from the top of your lungs. And I'd always be there and just be like, why is this man just here yelling, like off the side of the cliff and stuff like that? And I never understood it till it got
Uh,
to a point in my life where, I went up there and he kind of just told me, like, yeah, just kind of let it out. And that's when I realized, like, my father's outlet to his frustration and just bottling everything up was just like once every couple months, maybe once a year or something like that, just going out to an area where it was just kind of more isolated and just yourself and just letting his frustration come out, and I learned that. And also it got to a point where when I was going through my divorce, I bought like a little pop-up trailer. I had a Chevy Avalanche, and I'm like, you know what, like, I used to always think, well, my dad never took me to the Grand Canyon. So I said, well, I can't be that dad. I got to take my kids to the Grand Canyon. So I
mhm.
bought that little trailer, and that's when I just kind of, I learned to realize that with my children, I can't show them how to, change a situation, but I can show them how to, one, maybe remove themselves from the situation, two, how to disconnect, how to take a breather, how to be able to react to a situation. Because that's one
Mhm.
thing that I just really fully understand now. That I mean, it's all about how you react.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's what you're really doing in a sense is teaching your kids how to deal with stress. And I think that's what your father was trying to do to you when he took you that place and he told you yell from the top of your lungs. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was
Yeah.
teaching you how to deal with stress, whatever stress he may have been going through. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and it's cool to see that you're like, you know what, this is the way I want to show my kids. You know what I mean? I want to be
Right.
different. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
kudos to you, brother. That's awesome, man, for sure.
No, thank you.
Now, you said that your relationship with your father, like you weren't really around him much. Why do you feel that was?
I think my dad, uh, he was there, but I think he was always just kind of just busy. He had his hands full,
Hmm.
he had his hands full, and I think he always just made sure I was okay, and I was always okay. Thankfully, like, I mean, I'm so grateful for everything that he did. And
Hmm.
I've been living in the same house since I was 2 years old, so it's like, I never moved schools, I never did that. But like I said, I just wish I could have just spent more time with him. And he's
Hmm.
he's still around. And even like to this day, right? Because we're talking about the relationship that we have now with him. Even still to this day, like, it's just kind of so difficult, to just be there and like have a
Hmm.
conversation with him and stuff like that. And especially him, I guess he just sees me as the youngest kid. That it's like, he just never really given me that respect of like, all right, cool, now you're adult, now you've kind of gone through all this, and now let's go ahead and have an adult conversation. So it always
Hmm.
feels like it has to be me sitting my dad down and kind of checking him in a sense and being like, hey dad, you know what, you as being the head of household, like you shouldn't let this fly with my siblings, or this is what I think the way you should have, like, I don't know. So now I'm
Yeah.
able to at least kind of have a conversation with them, but now I know that I have to be the one to actually bring that up.
Mm. That's crazy too, because I just had an epiphany about that because I was talking to my wife before we started this podcast, and we're discussing about just different things, like me being a father. A lot of
Right.
times with my children, you get comfortable, right? And
Yeah.
we always say in the trade that I'm in that complacency kills. We get
Yeah.
comfortable, we get complacent, we think we know our children, so we don't have to
Right.
try. Or even let's take that further. We think we know our spouses. We know
Right.
all about them, and then we don't have to try. You know what I mean? And that's a dangerous place to be in, because what you're really saying is that person is simple. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's not a lot of depth to them, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think, just, not speaking for your father, but just me, being called out in that area, I
Right.
think that's me. That's exactly what she was trying to tell me, is like, man, I'm more complex. Your daughter's more complex. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
in order to get that relationship, you got to ask those questions. What a better way to get to know somebody, or even to create
Right.
intimacy or create a relationship, is to ask a lot of questions, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's cool that, I
So,
mean, it's sad, but it's cool that you recognize that. And hopefully, life's not over. Maybe your father will see that too. He's very educated, and you know what I mean?
right.
Maybe he'll come around to seeing that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was just always such a very serious character, you know what I mean? Like even growing up, he's like, I didn't
Hmm.
have any friends, I didn't drink, I didn't go out, I didn't party. He's like, I took care of your mom, I made sure I pretty much just, had a house and took care of you guys. Like you guys were never missing any food. And that, like I said, I'm very thankful I've learned that. But then again,
Hmm.
like, every Christmas, like we wouldn't get any gifts, you know what I mean? Like I was thankful for having the roof over my head, which was cool, but then it's
Hmm.
like, we'd be there sometimes. My mom would be trying to find a toy drive, and I tell people like that's why for me toy drives are kind of big with the barber shop, with me trying to help
Yeah.
out and stuff like that, because like I said, it's like I had a home, but it's like I still I was still that kid that would go out to those drives, and same thing with food banks. Like I've told people, like I'm not, I don't, it's not something that I hide, but I mean, I grew up, with like food bank food and stuff like that. My
Yeah.
dad always just took care of paying the bills and paying the house, and that was it. That was his priority. Other than that, it's like we were very limited. Even when my mom would take us to
Mm.
like fast food, it was just very like behind my dad's back and just very taboo. And that showed me just a way of like, also obviously I would see my mom always do things behind my dad's back, but I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't like bad intentions. I knew it was just kind of because she wanted us to just kind of put a smile on our face and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
so it's just something that I kind of try to just see now, and just apply it to myself, and just kind of being a dad, and just
Hmm.
making sure that it's like I don't just sometimes get comfortable, because like you said, it is easy to get comfortable Monday through Friday, but
Yeah.
every so often it's just kind of like, all right, cool, like what do I need to do, or who do I need to spend time with, especially with having two kids like myself. It's like, all right, and I
Hmm.
have a boy and a girl, and that's been different because my son's older, and we had a relationship and everything, but now I'm kind of, I don't want to say relearning everything, but I'm learning new things through my daughter, you know what I mean? And the
Yep.
way she's growing up and how she reciprocates to the world and everything like that too. So that's why for me, like I just think it's very, just very important to just kind of give people that time and just be able to hear them and listen to them. And I've when I cut my son's hair, that's why I think it's also kind of important, right? That father and son bond. I'll cut
Yeah.
my son's hair, and it's one of the times when I'm just like, hey, like you talk to me. You know what I mean? You let me know like what's going on in your world, like this is your time. People come in and hang out, and they talk about everything going on with, their relationships, their friends, their trips. I'm like, so same thing with my son, I'm like, sit down, like chat it up. And even if it's like, 30, 40 minutes to cut his hair. But I mean, it's that time that I value, and that I know one day he's going to be like, all right, maybe my dad was busy with work, but he always cut my hair, and he always just asked me, like, how's your world going and everything and stuff like that. And,
Mhm.
it's came to a point where, I mean, obviously, things haven't been super easy for myself, with having the custody of my kids and everything at first. But, now it's to the point where my son's 13, and he'll be like, hey, dad, if you need someone to talk to, like, let me know. I'm also here for you. And that's because we keep an open communication when it comes to mental health, especially, I talk to my son about just mental health with, just men and stuff like that. And how we just tend to not really talk about it, or
Mhm.
not that I use my dad as an example, but I will just kind of say, hey, like, look at this situation, and we want better. All right, cool. We want to have a better communication, right? You see how it is when I go to my dad's house. Okay, cool. Like, I want to be able to communicate with you and be able to talk to you and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
thankfully now he's older, and he kind of really sees that and understands that. And we have a pretty good communication.
Yeah, for sure. And you gained that trust with him, which is really awesome, and it's good to see that you used what you do, barbering, right, to be able to relate to him
Yeah.
and communicate with him and gain that trust. Um, I think it's awesome that you're able to take him and he's at a place now where he's able to recognize what not normal behavior is, say for instance,
Right.
going to your father's house and whatever rigidity or whatever that he's picking up there, he's seeing that it's
Right.
not normal. And that's cool. You know what I mean? It really
Yeah.
is not to bag on your old man or nothing like that,
Right.
but it is good to see because we're trying to raise the next generation. That's our jobs as fathers, right? We're raising the next
Absolutely.
generation up to be better than us. There's a
Right.
saying that we always say in this podcast: what walks in fathers runs in sons. And that's absolutely true. We
Right.
need to stop that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's
So,
good.
so
Everything you're doing seems like it's really working out. So
yeah.
I commend
So
you on
I
that.
I guess, yeah, I guess for me, most of my life has been really breaking the chains and just really, like, stopping
Hmm.
that cycle. That's what me and my siblings kind of say, like, we understand how kind of things were for us. Like I said, we're always very thankful of having things, but it's like, just because you have something doesn't mean it's great, Sometimes, like, I've heard my parents just talking about divorce since I was a kid, and still to this day I'm just like, if they're really that miserable, then why haven't they ever took any initiative? If it was just because of the kids, it's like, we're all adults. If it's just because you're comfortable, then you guys have a problem in your relationship.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way I see it. But like I said, nonetheless, I mean, my dad has always been there for us. I mean, if he always took us to karate. I grew up doing karate. He always had us very involved in things like that.
Hmm.
He had us in marching band, so I did band. I played music for a long time. And like I said, he was just very strategical. He was very careful with everything. And those are things that I kind of learned. He was big into saving, which is also one of the things that helped me kind of acquire the barbershop.
Hmm.
He was big into just kind of saving money, because for him it was important to just have that household and to have something that you can actually give to your family. And I'm thankful for that too, because he did give me discipline in a very different, unique way, in his own way, right? Because I mean, also knowing the way he grew up, I can't knock him on that, because he had
Hmm.
already broken certain chains. So I see that change for him. So yeah, so like I said, I mean, I know what change he's kind of done, and I admire that. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's helped me out a lot tremendously too. So
Yeah, for sure. And then you making your changes and it's like a river effect, brother. You know what I mean? Just
yeah.
change after change after change. That's a great thing, and just
Right.
realizing too that your father could only give you what he was given. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like having $5. You can't ask for $20 if how can they give you $20 if they only have five? They can only give you what they were
Absolutely.
given. You know what I mean? And that's helped me to empathize with my own father as well. And just to be able to
Right.
have that forgiveness, because father wounds are deep, brother. They
Yeah.
affect every aspect of our lives from how we work, relationships, our
Right.
marriage. We'll bring that into our marriage. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
sir.
now that we're talking about that, you mentioned you had been divorced. How did your father's interaction with your mother kind of play into that, or if it even did, you know what I mean? Like, what did you learn? You know what I mean from that?
Well, actually, divorce was kind of fairly new to my immediate family, and I was
Hmm.
pretty much the first person to kind of, be in that situation. So, if anything, I want to say I've been more of like the learning curve for my family, because sometimes my dad will be like, especially him being old school, he's like, hey, like you really got to put your foot down like this, and you got to do this like that. And for me, I'm like, hey, like I get that, I understand that, but then I'm like, you don't understand my situation. You don't understand that you have to be understanding. You know what I mean? If I was hard headed, then that's what got me in the situation in the first place. You know what I mean? Like you have to
Yep.
be understanding. So that's what I think about that.
No. And the reason why I asked that, brother, is because a lot of times, how we see our parents interact with each other is how
Right.
we're going to carry it into our own relationship. And even let's take that a step forward. How are you acting around your wife that you're showing to your kids? Because our daughters are
Yeah,
going to pick men based on us. And if they think it's okay
absolutely.
because we're treating their mama a certain way, they're going to grow up thinking that, hey, man, that's must be the way a man treats a woman and vice versa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Going to the original questions, I never really wanted to have kids in a sense. I was just a musician. I was playing all around. I was traveling and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
happened just to end up in a situation. I had my son. I had actually an offer to go to Europe and play for a big band, and I didn't take it during the pregnancy because I decided, you know what, I have to be there for my son no matter what. So for me, it was crucial that,
Hmm.
even going through the divorce, I was just like, well, I didn't want to be a weekend dad, like I want to be there for my kids. So even when we went through mediation, and of course it's one of those like tick for tack things, like, well, what do you want on the table, right? So then it was kind of like, well, give him the weekends, and then they asked me, and I was like, well, give her the weekends, it's only fair, like come on,
Hmm.
and the mediator kind of comes out and says, all right, she agreed. And that's when I'm like, oh my God, like my whole life just kind of changed right there, because I'm like, now what am I going to do? So it made me get more savvy. So instead of like thinking, all right, cool, like how am I going to make money, right? I'm just a barber. I went to school, I got my license and stuff like that. Before that, I did foreclosures.
Yeah.
So I just started thinking like I have to get witty with it, and that's when I would have to bring my son to work with me at the shop and everything. And sometimes some of my coworkers would get upset about it, or they'd say my son was in the way, when he just kind of wanted to help and assist and just kind of be around the shop.
Hmm.
And to me, I don't know, that just kind of really got under my skin, and it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna branch out. I'm gonna open up my own shop. I'm gonna have
Hmm.
it designed my own way, and we're just gonna kind of fully cater to families, and that's gonna be the thing, like we're not going
Yeah.
to have this cool guy thing or none of that stuff going on. And don't get me wrong, we're about the cars, we're about the bikes, but we're big about family. We're big about, our kids, even with some skateboarders, local skaters around the area. Like we were kind of sponsoring them with our skate decks and stuff like that. And that
Yeah.
was just because of, like I said, all my background of growing up, wanting to help out, wanting to give, like just telling the kids like, hey, just represent. I mean, I'll give you beanies, I'll give you shirts, I'll give you skate decks and stuff like that. And obviously these are kids who are, in a sense kind of getting by and stuff like that. So it just got to a point where I really wanted to help out the community and show my kids that it's about just kind of helping and assisting and putting other people first and before you, and then I know it's
Hmm.
good to think about yourself, put yourself first too. But I'm a big believer, obviously, about like community, and I mean, in order for you to succeed, I mean, you have to break bread with people and stuff like that, and that's why I think the philosophy of like the barbershop and the success of it has always been so true and so pure. You know what I mean? Like a lot
Yeah.
of people see it and they're just like, oh my God, you've created something great. But like I said, originally I was working 7 days a week. I had one employee. I told him, hey, you take your 2 days off. I built it was a restroom. Then in the back, I built a full office and then a laundry room. But that office space was pretty much just like I had a couch there, I had a PlayStation, I had a big TV. It's pretty much where my kids would come and hang out, do their homework, and just hang tight while I can be able to, in a sense, just cut hair and be able to generate and make money. So, and like I said, it got to the point where I'm so thankful of my crew and all of my barbers. I got to give them a shout out because, like I said, nonetheless, without them, they're the ones who give me the opportunity to be away from the shop now 7 years later that the business has been running,
Yeah.
and I, take my kids to school in the morning. My wife takes my daughter, I take my son. Now he's doing basketball, so we're going to start doing the basketball program. But I always said that too, when it comes to business in my
Hmm.
barbershop was not made, so I can become a millionaire. It wasn't made so I can slave away and just cut hair all day. So my barbershop was created so I can be able to, create something for a community, help other people to generate income and help other families, and let that assist me in being there for my family and for my kids,
Mm.
and like I said, ultimately that foundation has just gone really far. It's taken me far, and people see that. Not everyone
Yeah.
obviously knows my whole story and everything, but they just see the true essence of it. And how we even just, father and son, like at the barbershop, like to us, that's kind of huge because there's a lot of people like myself. I never went to the barbershop with my dad. I never shared that time, but I see that there's a lot of people who love that and have that bond. And for me, it's like, it's so sacred to be able to create that safe space for them to where they can come in and hang out with their kids and still enjoy the cars that they like, the bikes that they like, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like we are who we are and we like what we like, whether our kids are going to enjoy it or not, then that's on them. That'll be their own individual persona. But like I said, I just think it's still just kind of a cool thing. I've always wanted to do like once a month to create a father and son day at the barbershop. And I want to kind of call it like a day at the hop, you know what I mean? And it's a
Yeah.
father and day son, and just do a car show, have a DJ and stuff like that. Just because I've always wanted to create that bond and preserve that bond of like just a father and son, and even at the barbershop, whenever a kid gets his haircut, kids tend to get up and just want to run and just be like, all right, cool, I got my haircut, I'm out. But we take the time to also just educate them and just give them a quick little 411, but when they get
Mhm.
off, and especially this is like pre-COVID, right? But
Yeah.
they'd get off the chair and we'd be like, all right, but like, let me get a handshake. We'd show kids how to give one firm
Hmm.
handshake, how to say thank you, how to be grateful for something. And to me, that was just kind of huge, that was huge. A
Hmm.
place where a young kids can kind of just in a sense learn how to mold themselves, how to be young adults, and just go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's cool to see that you're carrying on those old traditions, right? In your shop, and you're also educating
Yeah.
these kids. I mean, that's awesome, brother. And that's what drew me to you
Yeah.
because I saw what you're doing. Um, I saw the skate deck. I saw the,
Yeah.
the deal that for the car show and stuff like that that you guys are doing. And I thought that
Right.
was really awesome what you're doing. You are creating a whole atmosphere there where families can come together. You are helping the community, and that's awesome, dude. That is
Yeah. No,
truly
thank
awesome,
you.
man.
I appreciate that. No, yeah. And I mean, hopefully, because now we've been really focusing on branding the shop and just creating this brand. And,
Yeah.
I hope it continues to grow and stuff like that because I have a lot of great ideas that I want the world to see in different communities, and a lot of like
Mhm.
just little things that I have planned out. But also, like I said, just from my background, not really knowing much, but getting to this point, it's like, how do I continue to grow? That's kind of where I'm at also in my own growth. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, cool. Like I made it this far. I got a business. I created a business. But now, how do I kind of expand so I can be able to, like right now, at the barbershop, we're 10 barbers. How do I do that for another 10 barbers to where I can help another 10 families? I have barbers who've been working for me for over 5 years. So for me, it's like that's something huge.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, definitely you got to expand and grow. I talk about it all the time. If you're not growing, you're dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
without a
you
doubt.
you have to definitely continue to mold. You're not, if you look back and you see that you are in the same place as you were last year, dude, you need to reassess what you're doing. You know what I mean? You gotta definitely
Absolutely.
have a vision, and it's good to see that you have a vision. With that being said, seems like you're leaving
Right.
a great legacy, Jason, for your kids
Thank
and
you.
for the community and stuff like that. What do you want your legacy to be as a dad? Like when you say, for instance, Lord forbid, you go away later on,
Mhm.
hopefully way later on, right? When
Yes.
you put you in the ground, right? What do
Yeah.
you want your kids to say about you? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think ultimately, I just want them, to just really say and see that I gave it my all, that I didn't have
Mhm.
instructions. As I say, parenthood doesn't come with with instructions nor shot glasses, so
Yeah.
that I was just really trying to give it my all, and that I did give it my all for them. And that, even with my business, I created something to where I was able to generate and be there for them. And as I tell my son, that way, if they want to continue, or if they want to grow or do something within business, even if it's in the hair industry or not, now at least there's a foundation. Now there's a background. Now you at least kind of know the general foundation of how a business works. Then from there, you can just kind of grow. And, so I think ultimately that's the legacy that I want, that they can see that I was a hard worker, that I
Hmm.
gave it my all, and that I was never a quitter. Because that's one thing that I tell my son, I'm just like, one thing that you just got to know is just, it's okay to quit, but I'm not a quitter.
Mm.
So that's just kind of my own philosophy. So just like you said, always just one foot, ahead
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I think that's ultimately the legacy, that, and then them just seeing that I was just a great dad, just a good dad. I'll let them just kind of judge that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I just gave it my all.
Heck yeah. No, I think that's what all fathers want. They just want their kids to know that, man, I did the best I could. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever I had, I try to make, life throw you lemons, I made lemonade.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Never quitting, and that's a good attitude. And then to
Absolutely.
be able to be able to show them that, I think a lot of times people want to give up, and
Yeah.
when you
And
give up like that, you're conveying a message that they're not worth the fight.
right, for sure. And I was gonna say, if I can just kind of add along too, because for a long time, I know, especially with a divorce, sometimes people get bitter and stuff like that. Especially
Mm,
guys, I've had a lot of guys sit in my chair who've gone through divorces, and they're like, "Oh, women this and women that," And I just want to say out there too, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I grew up with my mom saying, like, "You're going outside, you better put a jacket on, and you better," and it was just
yeah.
kind of different. So I mean, yeah, no, and like for me in my household, like we'll bring out all the Christmas decorations, and we'll
Mhm,
kind of leave them in the living room for a little bit, and we'll kind of, because same thing, the kids always want us to take the lead, which is cool, but for us, it's kind of like we can put these things up, but like that's not the problem. We're like, how do you guys want to decorate this time? What's your guys' imagination with it? So we kind of tend to want to always kind of let the kids kind of lead, and then just
mhm.
kind of see what direction they kind of take, you know what I mean? And then just kind of assist them from there. So that's kind of the way we apply it in our house.
No, and that's
So
that's I think that's a great way, what I
yeah.
mean?
So sometimes the decorations will be sitting there for like, what I mean, an extra 2 weeks, and I'm like, all right, are these kids really not gonna do the Halloween decorations yet? So, and then eventually one day it's just kind of like, hey, are we gonna do the decorations? Like, do you want to do it? And it's like, oh, cool. Thought you weren't gonna ask. And it's like, all right, cool. Then we go ahead and they do it on their time, and they're happy and they're stoked on it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it takes planning
So
too. It takes being intentional. Like my little boys are, they're at
yeah,
9 and 7, and stuff breaks.
yeah.
But it takes being intentional. Like my wife, she went intentionally and she went and got these beautiful ornaments that are plastic. I
Oh,
remember
okay.
growing up, we didn't have plastic ones. We had the
No.
glass balls, dude, and you had to be careful
Yeah.
because once they hit, they exploded. You know what I mean? It
They
was like a
shattered.
bomb.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
true.
And I think that's why one of the reasons why my mom was so rigid too, because she's like, she knew if we were uncareful because we were excited because we were being kids and they
Right.
exploded, it was gonna be everywhere. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
takes being intentional to be able to be like, all right, I got little kids, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the balls that don't break. So if they do fall, it's not such a big
Yeah.
devastating thing. You know what I mean?
True. And for me, it's kind of like they're gonna find themselves in situations,
Mm-hmm.
but how are you gonna react? So if it does break, you know what I mean? Like, cool. Now, how are you gonna take care of the problem? You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
always do tend to tell my kids that. I'll just be like, hey, if you find yourself in a problem, or even like at home, haven't done their laundry, now they're gonna get grounded or something like that. I'm like, hey, all right, so what is your solution to the problem? That way they at least start processing something and start kind of analyzing and saying like, all right, cool, you know what, well, I did mess up, maybe I should take care of the problem like this and stuff like that. So
For sure. You got to give them that why.
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
they
I
they
try to
they
i
need to
try
have
to
the
be
why.
mindful of them, but yeah, but I like to let them, I
Mm,
like to let them speak for themselves, and I like to let them just kind of really, as I say, they're old enough, you know what I mean, they're
yeah.
old enough. So I'll just be like, cool, what do you guys want to do you want to go to the store, do you not want to go to the store, and it's like, all right, cool. So now it's gotten to the point where I do like it, because it's kind of like, I feel like I respect their opinion of what they want. And sometimes I'll be like, man, you really don't want to go to Target with me? Like, I'm gonna go get a gift for like so and so's son because it's their birthday. Like, don't you want to
Mm.
go pick it out? And I'll be like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go out there and pick it out by myself. Cool,
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's times when they're all like, yeah, man, like I'll go out there, I'll help you pick it out. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Let's go, let's do it.
Well,
And
yeah,
then
for
that's when I'm
sure.
like, cool, you want to grab some food after? We can go to, Taco Bell or something. And I'll be the fatty.
Right, exactly. Well, and it's
Yeah,
good. It's good to give them that autonomy, because they are people. No matter what, that yeah, they're your children and
yeah,
everything, but they are little people and they're developing their own way of thinking. You know what I mean? So we got to allow
yeah.
them to do that, and explore,
Yeah,
as
it's kind of like
fathers.
that like that saying, we're not raising in a sense kind of children, right? But we're
Mhm.
we're kind of raising children who are going to be adults. So we have to, in a sense, show them how they can be good adults and stuff like that. So
No, definitely. I think the world would be a lot better if more
mhm.
people would do that. You know what I mean? Raising, we talk about it all the time. We have to raise the next generation. Well,
Yeah,
we definitely do. That's, and I hate it too, because I have guys tell me, this next generation, they don't know what
right,
it is to work hard and they're so emotional and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, dude, who
right,
raised that generation? Look in the
exactly.
mirror,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
you
that's one
know?
thing that we tend to not see, because we're so quick to kind of just point the finger like that. But exactly like you said, like we have to see, like, I mean, we're the ones to blame. Absolutely. We're the ones raising them. We're the ones who have enabled them. Because okay, like me, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, I grew up not having anything. So then what does my mind do? Now I got this good job, successful job, and now I just buy all these toys for my kids, and now they have lost the value of learning what it is to kind of go and earn a buck. Like for me, that's
Mhm.
that's one thing of like how we were talking about what molded us to become into like an adult, right? Or like a young adult. Like for me, it was when I turned 14, because my dad didn't want to buy me my skate shoes, and they were $100 like Chad Muska Circas back in the day. And it got to the point where I just told my dad, like coming home, back in the day, you'd see these on a light post and it'd be like, hey, teens, get a job, like pass a newspaper out or something like that. So yanked it out one day, went home, and I told my dad, hey, what if I get a job? And my dad was just kind of like, well, you better not drop your grades. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I'll do good in school. He's just kind of like, all right, cool. Do your own thing. And
Yeah.
once I kind of did that, I mean, I don't want to say I learned what it was to love money, but I realized if I want something, I got to work hard for it, and stuff like that. And I mean, I always tell my son too, I took care of those shoes for so long and such long time that like I outgrew them and I probably rocked them like two times. So,
Mm.
and that's just kind of the thing too. Like with my kids, I want them to just kind of see that, like I said, going back to that foundation, that it's like my daughter, she's big into sewing. So I always say, hey, maybe she's gonna go to FITM, the Fashion Institute. But just really kind of knowing how to support them when they want to kind of do something. You know what I mean? It's like cool, like I want to be the president of the United States. Like that's cool, like I support you 100%. I might
Mhm.
not have the best foundation, but this is at least what I have and what I've learned, and I'm going to pass this on to you, whether it comes to like learning finances so it helps them out to acquire that,
Mhm.
or you know what I mean, just the life lessons really in life, because I mean that gets you far. I always tell my son, you can't change the waves, but you can learn how to surf. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm.
a matter of how you're going to react to just everything around you. So I think that's just always kind of important, just to kind of really instill that into them.
No, I like that. I never heard that before. You can't change the waves, but you can surf them. How are you
It's
gonna
so
go to?
crazy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so check it out. The way I kind of heard that, and it's just such a funny story, but I was leaving the barbershop one late night, right? Not having
Uh-huh.
anywhere to go, not having the kids under my custody and stuff like that. And I was driving home on the 22 freeway, and I was passing I think it was like Toyota, one of those dealerships and stuff like that. And there was this huge sign, right? Like those TVs, LED signs. And that's exactly what it said. It said, you
Hmm.
can't change the wave, but you can learn how to surf. And for me, I was like, it's one of those, like when people say, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Like that just changed my life ever since I kind of read that up there. And I was just like, oh my God, you know what? Like I just interpreted it into my own life. And I'm like, the reaction, it's pretty much just based on the reaction.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely it is. And man, it's so true, because it is the reaction, because their kids are watching you. I mean, it goes
Yeah,
back to what we are showing them. They're gonna, if
yeah,
life throws you this curveball, how is daddy and mommy gonna react?
right.
You know what I'm saying? So no, it's that is life changing. And I know that our listeners, are gonna appreciate that. Um,
Yeah,
what type of advice, brother, can I ask you to share for the
yeah.
young family dad? What advice would you leave them?
For the young father, you know, I think more than anything, it'll
Mhm.
be I'll share a quick little advice that someone shared with me this one time, right? I
Yeah,
had
please
this
do.
older gentleman. He sat in my chair one time. I'm all based on experiences, but I sat this older gentleman in my chair this one time, and his advice that he told me one day, right, to his success of a long marriage, was just kind of like, if your wife tells you to take the day off and spend it with her, he's
Mhm.
like, you call your boss and you take the day off and you spend it with her. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
to me, that was, I don't know, it was just so important because it really like just let me understand that it's like you're gonna get busy, you're gonna be busy with work and stuff like that, but always just make sure that you take care of your household. You know what I mean? Make sure that you always pay attention to your spouse, that you're there listening to her and stuff like that. I think that's just the biggest advice that I would say, to just be a good listener. We're quick at talking, but just listen to your spouse, listen to your kids, and then from there just go ahead and make your decisions, because one quick decision could just kind of alter everything, alter your life and stuff like that. So just don't be quick at jumping into a conclusion. Just take it easy. And I think that's probably the best advice that I can kind of give. It's what I think I would give
Mhm.
myself, my younger
Mhm.
self, as an advice.
No, and it's great advice, man, for sure, Jason. Um, I
Yeah,
think we live in a society now that everybody has something to say and everybody wants to be heard,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And part of doing that is listening.
yeah,
Just listen.
absolutely.
you know
Yeah.
um well, once again, Jason, thank you. How can someone reach out to you, brother? I appreciate you coming on here. And can you share with our audience right now how they can reach you, where you're at and stuff like that, if you don't mind, on social media?
Yeah, not at all. As I always tell people, not only do I cut hair inside the shop, outside the shop, I've gone to recovery homes, just to
Mhm.
kind of help out because I love to be supportive. So I always tell people, even if it's for a haircut or you just need to talk to someone or an outside source, I'm
Mhm.
always here just to kind of help out. So you guys can email me at oldtraditionsgp@gmail.com. So that's our shop name, oldtraditionsgp@gmail.com. Or you can go ahead and always just call the shop, email us, check out our website. That's www.otgpbarbers.com. If you go online and you plug it in, Old Traditions in the city of Los Alamitos will come right up. But like I said, I mean, if anyone, it's kind of like they say, a haircut's cheaper than therapy. So come see me. I'm here to hear you out. And that's the thing. A lot of the times we tend to think that we're here to just hear people unload all day, but is like I said, I mean, I've had, my clients that have been with me for almost 10 years now, and they know my whole life and they've heard me out just as much as I've heard them out. And that's where it creates this bond of like friendship because it's like, hey, man, like you understand me, you get me, like you're someone who doesn't judge me, you just hear me out. And
Mhm.
that's why barbering is so important. As I always say, just to kind of wrap it up with it, but barbering is going to be one of the few things that still preserves human interaction, I believe, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%, dude. And I actually like that little catchphrase you said there about a haircut's cheaper
Right.
than therapy. Because I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're losing today. And
Yeah.
in the sake of trying not to bag
Right.
on social media, because I use social media a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of times that has taken the place for these connections that we need to make in these relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's quick to get on there and just kind of like dull themselves out on these devices and
Yeah.
not have these interactions anymore. And with a haircut, you
Right.
can't do that. You're sitting there, you can't really move, and you're
You have to be
having it.
patient.
You have to be patient. Exactly. That's the number one
Yeah.
thing. Patience, brother. Man, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jason, for coming on here, bro, and sharing everything. You have so much wisdom, brother. Um, I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you. And anytime you have any kind of event or anything like that, you know, with the community and stuff like that, or if fathers can just go get a haircut with their kids, I know I want to
Yeah.
go down there and take my boys down there.
Awesome.
Let us know. We'll share it on our social media accounts, and
Right.
look forward to doing some more stuff with you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm not there at the shop all day, every day, but if you guys need me, send me an email and I will definitely just, we'll figure it out and I'll meet you guys at the shop. That's what I always tell people. So same thing with you, David. I mean, whenever you want to come out, let me know. We'll go ahead, we'll plan a day and we'll meet you out there. Other than that, I want to say just thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I want to thank you for what you have created and, just the Show Up Dad and the foundation and everything. It's super important. It's something that I back up 100%. And, we're here for you, man. So anything that we could ever do, or our shop, I mean, we got your back 100%. We love it and we're about it. And, like I said, just to all the rad dads out there, just keep putting it down, holding it down for your kids. And, we do us and we have fun and just enjoy your family. That's what it's about, at the end of the day. We ain't going to be here too long. So just, give them a hug, give them a kiss, tell them you love them and just enjoy it. Enjoy time, enjoy your kids, enjoy your spouse.
man, you couldn't say it better than I could. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, bro. I appreciate you so much, Jason. We'll be talking to you
All
soon,
right.
bro.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Take care, man.